sister charmed and snatched my fiancé. So I did this and married someone better. Growing up, my sister Olivia and I couldn't have been more different. She was the golden child, the charming, social butterfly who always had a way of twisting situations to her advantage. I, on the other hand, was more reserved, focused on my studies, and determined to build a future that wasn't dependent on the approval of others. Despite our differences, I never saw Olivia as a threat. Sure, she was flirtatious, always craving attention, but she was my sister. I believed that family had unspoken rules, boundaries that were never meant to be crossed. I was wrong. Smith and I had been together for 3 years when I introduced him to my family. He was kind, ambitious, and everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Our relationship wasn't just built on attraction. It was built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and an understanding that we would support each other through anything. Or so I thought. From the moment Olivia met him, something changed. She turned on her charm in a way that made me uneasy. She laughed a little too hard at his jokes, found reasons to touch his arm during conversations, and acted as though she was just being friendly. I should have trusted my instincts then, but I brushed it off. She was my sister. I refused to believe she would ever betray me like that. Looking back, the red flags were there. Smith started mentioning Olivia more often, usually in passing. She would text him directly about trivial things, pretending it was easier than going through me. At family gatherings, she always found a way to sit next to him, monopolizing his attention while I was left to play third wheel. Even my mother noticed. "Olivia sure does seem to like Smith," she said with a knowing look. "She's always been a bit of a flirt." I laughed it off, refusing to let paranoia take root. But the doubt had already been planted. The day my world came crashing down was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. Smith had been acting secretive for weeks, and I genuinely believed he was planning to propose. I imagined a romantic setup, maybe a candlelit dinner or a special getaway. Instead, I walked into a nightmare. One evening, I got a text from a friend. "You need to see this." Attached was a picture, Olivia and Smith, locked in an intimate embrace at a restaurant across town. My stomach dropped. My hands shook as I read the next message. "They've been seeing each other behind your back." The world tilted on its axis. I felt sick, my chest tightening as the realization hit me like a freight train. The man I loved, the sister I trusted, both of them had betrayed me in the worst way possible. I drove straight to Olivia's apartment, my heart pounding in my chest. I didn't bother knocking. I pushed the door open, and there they were. Smith's face went pale. Olivia, ever the performer, had the audacity to smirk. "Well," she said, leaning back against the couch, "I guess you found out." My hands curled into fists. "How long?" I demanded, my voice shaking. Smith looked down, ashamed, but Olivia? She just shrugged. Does it matter? He was always going to end up with me anyway. The sheer arrogance, the complete lack of remorse. It broke something inside me. I turned to Smith. "And you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Were you ever going to tell me?" "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said weakly. "But Olivia and we just clicked." I stared at him, at both of them, and something inside me hardened. I had wasted 3 years of my life on a man who had no spine, no loyalty. And my sister? She had always been the vulture, circling, waiting for the opportunity to take what wasn't hers. I took off the necklace Smith had given me on our last anniversary and placed it on the coffee table. "You two deserve each other," I said coldly before walking out. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply left. And that, I decided, would be the last time Olivia or Smith ever had power over me. I drove aimlessly for hours after walking out of Olivia's apartment. My hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white, my mind replaying the scene over and over like a cruel, twisted movie. Smith, looking ashamed but not nearly regretful enough. Olivia, smug and satisfied, like she had won. But won what? A lying, spineless man who had no integrity? A relationship built on betrayal? If this was her idea of winning, then she and I had never been playing the same game. The next morning, I woke up to an explosion of messages. Apparently, Olivia and Smith hadn't wasted any time. They had gone public immediately, posting pictures together on social media as if they hadn't just obliterated my trust. I ignored them. What I couldn't ignore, however, was the call from my mother. "Sweetheart," she said the moment I answered, her voice filled with concern. "Are you okay?" I let out a bitter laugh. "Which part, Mom? The fact that my fiancé was cheating on me, or the part where my own sister was the one he cheated with?" She sighed heavily. "I don't know what Olivia was thinking." "She wasn't," I snapped. "She never does." "She's your sister," Mom continued, her voice taking on that familiar, just-let-it-go tone that she always used when Olivia messed up. "And Smith, well, he clearly wasn't the right man for you." "Thanks for the insight," I said dryly. "Honey, I just don't want this to tear the family apart," she said carefully. "I'm sure Olivia feels terrible about it." I barked out a laugh. "Oh, really? Does she feel terrible enough to have not posted about their relationship the same night I found out?" There was a long pause before Mom finally admitted she could have handled it better. "No, Mom," I said, my voice firm. "She could have not done it at all." I hung up before she could try to mediate. I wasn't interested in peace. Not with Olivia. A week passed before Olivia reached out. I ignored her first few texts. Then, finally, a call. I debated not answering, but some twisted part of me wanted to hear what excuse she would try to spin. "Hello?" I answered, keeping my voice cold. "I just want to talk," she said quickly, as if I might hang up at any second. "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "You made your choice." She sighed dramatically. "Oh, come on. Are you really going to be this bitter? Smith and I just have a connection and he never had. It's not my fault he realized it before you did." I felt my jaw tighten. The sheer arrogance. "You think this is about Smith?" I asked, my voice dangerously low. "Smith was a mistake I can erase from my life. But you were my sister." A brief silence. "I didn't steal him," she argued weakly. "You just weren't meant to be together." I scoffed. "Right. And you? What? Came in to save him from a relationship that was perfectly fine before you slithered your way into it?" She sighed dramatically, as if I was the one being unreasonable. "Look, I know it sucks, but what's done is done. Maybe one day you'll thank me for—" I hung up before she could finish that ridiculous sentence. There was no coming back from this. I didn't have to say a word about what had happened. Olivia and Smith had gone public so quickly that everyone figured it out on their own. Friends, extended family, even co-workers who barely knew me. Everyone was shocked. A few friends reached out immediately. "I cannot believe Olivia would do this." One messaged me, "What the hell is wrong with her?" Another wrote, "Smith's an idiot. You dodged a bullet." Even some of Olivia's own friends, who had always been blindly loyal to her, weren't buying her narrative. I saw Olivia's post. One friend of hers texted me, "She's acting like you guys were never together." It's gross. It wasn't just gross, it was humiliating, but I refused to let them see me break. Instead, I did what Olivia never expected. I thrived. Rather than sulk, I threw myself into my career. I had been working toward a major promotion in my field, and instead of letting heartbreak slow me down, I pushed harder. I poured every ounce of my energy into excelling at my job, moving up the ranks faster than even I anticipated. It was as if losing them had freed me. I no longer had to deal with Smith's passive insecurities or Olivia's constant need for attention. For the first time in years, I was entirely focused on myself. And then, just when I thought I had completely moved on, fate threw a curveball. I met him. After Olivia and Smith's betrayal, I had two choices. I could let their actions consume me, or I could use it as fuel to become the best version of myself. I chose the latter. The months that followed were some of the most transformative of my life. I threw myself into my career, working late nights, taking on ambitious projects, and proving to myself and the world that I was unstoppable. And I was unstoppable. I worked in the medical field, a demanding industry that required resilience and focus. When the promotion I had been eyeing for years became available, I went for it with everything I had. "Are you sure you're ready for this kind of responsibility?" my supervisor asked during my final interview. I met her gaze without hesitation. More than ready. 2 weeks later, I got the call. I had been chosen. The raise, the prestige, the new responsibilities. It was everything I had worked for. And the best part? I had achieved it on my own. No toxic boyfriend weighing me down. No sister whispering doubts in my ear. I was standing on my own 2 feet, and I had never felt stronger. I wasn't looking for love. In fact, I was convinced I didn't need it. But life has a funny way of surprising you when you least expect it. It started at a medical conference. I had just finished giving a presentation when a man approached me with an easy, confident smile. "Dr. Lively," he said, extending a hand. That was an impressive presentation. I shook his hand, arching an eyebrow. "And you are?" "Aaron Carter," he introduced himself. "Neurosurgeon. And apparently your biggest fan today." I smirked. "Flattery won't get you far, Dr. Carter." He grinned. "Then I guess I'll have to impress you some other way." And impress me, he did. Unlike Smith, who had always been subtly insecure about my ambition, Aaron was drawn to it. He challenged me intellectually, made me laugh effortlessly, and, most importantly, never once made me feel like I needed to dim myself to make him feel bigger. It was a kind of relationship I hadn't realized was possible. One where we pushed each other to be better, not out of competition, but out of mutual respect. And when I told him, months later, about what had happened with Olivia and Smith, he simply shook his head. "They didn't deserve you," he said, "but I'm glad they were stupid enough to let you go. Otherwise, I might never have met you." It was nearly a year later when Olivia finally reached out. I had just finished dinner with Aaron when my phone buzzed with an unfamiliar number. "Curious," I answered. "Hello?" There was silence, then a hesitant, familiar voice. "Hey." I nearly laughed out loud. "Of course. What do you want, Olivia?" I asked, my voice calm but cold. She sighed dramatically, as if she were the victim. I wanted to talk. Things haven't been great lately." "Oh," I said, feigning interest. "And why's that?" "Well," she hesitated. "Smith and we broke up." I leaned back in my chair, exchanging an amused glance with Aaron. "Shocking." Olivia let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, turns out he's not exactly the dream guy I thought he was." I could almost hear the desperation in her voice. She wasn't just calling to talk. She was hoping for something more. "Let me guess," I said. "You thought he would change for you, but he's still the same spineless cheater you stole from me?" She exhaled sharply. "I didn't steal him," she muttered weakly. I smirked. "Well, you sure as hell didn't keep him either." She let out a frustrated noise. "Look, I know I messed up, okay? I miss you. I miss us." I tilted my head, pretending to consider her words. So, let me get this straight. You betrayed me, humiliated me, and chose a man over our family. And now that it's blown up in your face, you want me to pretend like none of it ever happened?" I was hoping we could move past it. I let out a slow breath before answering. "No, Olivia, we can't." And then, for the second time in my life, I hung up on her. Only this time, I didn't feel an ounce of sadness. Hanging up on Olivia should have been the final chapter in our story, but life had other plans. She didn't take rejection well. A week after her desperate phone call, she showed up at my office. Uninvited. I was in the middle of reviewing patient charts when my receptionist buzzed in. "There's a woman here asking to see you," she said hesitantly. "She says she's your sister?" I sighed, already knowing where this was going. "Tell her I'm busy." "She's refusing to leave," the receptionist admitted. Of course, she was. Taking a deep breath, I walked out into the lobby. Sure enough, there was Olivia, dressed in designer clothes but looking disheveled. Her hair slightly messy, her makeup just a little off. She was trying to maintain her usual polished appearance, but I could see the cracks. "Olivia," I greeted coolly, "what are you doing here?" She let out a nervous laugh, fidgeting with her purse strap. "I just thought we could talk. You kind of cut me off before." I crossed my arms. "Because there's nothing left to say." She blinked, clearly not expecting me to be this indifferent. "I know I screwed up," she admitted. "And I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I miss my sister." I arched an eyebrow. "You miss me? Or you miss having someone to fall back on now that Smith has dumped you?" Her face twisted in frustration. It's not like that. I smirked. Isn't it? Because you didn't seem to miss me when you were busy flaunting your new relationship all over social media. You didn't miss me when Mom begged you to fix things. You only miss me now because you're alone. She flinched at my words. I know I don't deserve a second chance, she murmured, but I don't know what to do anymore. For a brief moment, I actually felt something close to pity. She looked truly lost. But then I reminded myself, she did this to herself. You made your choices, Olivia, I said, my tone softer but firm. Now you get to live with them. Her eyes shimmered, like she wanted to cry, but I didn't let myself feel bad. Instead, I turned to my receptionist and nodded toward the door. Please escort my sister out. I have actual work to do. Olivia's face crumpled in shock, but she didn't fight it. She turned and walked out, her heels clicking against the floor. And just like that, she was gone. If Olivia showing up at my office was unexpected, what happened next was downright comical. 2 days later, Smith reached out. Yes, Smith. The same man who left me for my sister. The same man who thought he was trading up to something better. The same man who now realized he had made the worst mistake of his life. His text was short, simple, and absolutely laughable. Hey, can we talk? I've been thinking a lot lately. I stared at my phone for a solid minute before bursting into laughter. Oh, this is too good. I screenshotted the message and immediately sent it to a close friend with the caption, "Look at this loser trying to crawl back." Then, I did the only appropriate thing. I left him on read. No reply. No closure. Nothing. Just the same cold indifference he and Olivia had once shown me. With both Olivia and Smith officially out of my life, I finally felt free. No more toxic drama. No more betrayal. Just me, thriving in my career, surrounded by people who actually respected and valued me. Aaron, my new boyfriend, had been nothing but supportive throughout all of this. Unlike Smith, he never made me feel like I had to shrink myself to fit into his life. We were equals, partners in every sense of the word. One evening, as we sat on my balcony, watching the city lights, he turned to me and asked, "Do you ever think about them?" I took a sip of wine, smiling slightly. Not really, but I bet they still think about me. And I knew I was right, because karma always collects. And they lost the best thing they ever had. Olivia thought she had one. Smith thought he had found something better. But in the end, I was the one who walked away with everything: success, love, and most importantly, self-respect. So, to anyone who has ever been betrayed, let me tell you this. Don't chase people who don't deserve you. Let them throw away something good. Because one day, they'll realize what they lost. And by then, you'll be so much better off without them.